Right guys, welcome to the Grow Hub. Today we've got some special guests, the boys from Custom Hydro, Adrian and Mark. Welcome. So we're here today to chat about the product we've just taken distribution of, and that's the BubbleGen. So we're going to ask you a few questions, if that's alright. So first things first, what does it do?
Right, BubbleGen is it's a new way to oxygenate your header tanks or your hydro systems. Basically, we add a water pump here to the bottom pipe.
Yeah.
By pushing water through here, it creates a Venturi effect, which will create an atmospheric pressure, which will bring in oxygen, rich oxygen from outside.
This sits outside your tank?
This will sit outside the tank, or wherever you want to place it. You can actually run this up to sort of 10-15 metres, as long as you want, really.
So you can extend the hose
length.
Yeah.
So if you really wanted to get this outside and get cold air into your tank, then you would extend this further out.
So you can make like a poor man's nutrient chiller.
Poor man's nutrient chiller if you wanted to, yeah.
Okay. So you turn the two on, and then essentially you get two nice jets of oxygenated water coming out the front.
Yeah.
Two apertures, yeah.
Two apertures. And the bigger the pump, the more oxygen you'll have pour in through here.
Okay.
So if you use a higher, bigger pressure pump, then it's going to act like even more.
So it oxygenates, it'll recirculate. Can you use it in any other way at all?
You could put it into, a lot of people are using them in header tanks, where they'll use this in the bottom of a header tank, they'll put a T-piece after the pump, and then they can run a separate hose up, so they can use the one pump to circulate, oxygenate, and also go and feed their plants as well.
Yeah. Basically, if you have water, you can use the BubbleGen.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. It does other things as well. It'll help remove chlorine from water, these sort of things, by bubbling constantly. But basically, if you've got a water tank anywhere that needs to be used to feed plants, the BubbleGen will work.
Super. Okay then. Question number two. Obviously people are in different tank sizes, they've got different nutrient tanks, different header tanks. What sort of pump would you recommend to be attached to the back of this to be suitable for?
Yeah, so we've designed the BubbleGen to be as flexible as possible in terms of pump choice. So it will operate from pretty much anything 800 litres right the way up to 4,000 and above.
Yeah.
The deeper the BubbleGen sits in the tank, the more pressure is required, water pressure is required to pull the air into the system. So the deeper you are, you need a slightly bigger
What size pump would you recommend for?
So, for instance, on a 225 or 250 litre tank, flexi tank, hard tank, I would recommend sort of anything up to 1700 litre per hour pump, and upwards. Anything less, 50 centimetres of depth, you can use a 1000 pump.
Yeah.
Anything above 50 centimetres of depth, we recommend using the bigger pump. So we recommend using up to 2000, maybe a 1700 litre an hour
Cool.
pump.
Yeah. There's a couple of options as well that would benefit from a larger pump. If you're running the pump through a chiller first and then back into the tank and then into BubbleGen, you go up to a 1250 or a 1500.
Yeah.
Or if you're using the BubbleGen with a T-piece to feed, so you can actually put a T-piece in it and use it to feed your plants straight directly, then again a 1500 would benefit. But for NFT trays, shallow depth, 1000 or a 1250, something along those lines would be
cool.
And there'd be certain customers, it's up to the customer as well if they want more. So the bigger the pump, the more agitation, the more oxygen that's going to get pulled into the water. So it's going to be more agitation for your thing. So
happy days.
if you're using a big, huge tank, 700 litre tank, then you need to put a 4,000 litre an hour pump. But you can also run two BubbleGens off just the one pump. So you could have a big pump and you could T-piece it, come off and run two BubbleGens off the one pump. So if you've got a big tank, you can actually do both sides of your tank.
The next question is, what impact will it have on the pH?
pH is one of these funny ones that people get really confused about. If you were to use a BubbleGen in a tank of water without any buffers, then obviously it depends where the water comes from. Down south of England you've got hard water, up in Scotland you get soft water, you can also get reverse osmosis water or partially filtered water. But typically you would have a tank with nutrients in it, and those nutrients almost always come with buffers. So they will usually maintain the pH at the desired level.
Cool.
The BubbleGen, in comparison with air stones and other type of oxygenation devices, will maintain the pH by maintaining the bacterial balance between the aerobic and the anaerobic bacteria. So that will also help keep the pH stable.
Cool. Will this stick to any tank? Rigid tank or flexible tank?
Yeah, we've run it in the showroom. We've had sitting on the bottom of a flexi tank. The benefit as well, obviously, is that the pump itself will always hold the BubbleGen down, so it's never going to just suddenly float to the top. But they do stick to the bottom of a flexi tank. We've had one running in the showroom for quite some time now.
That's handy because a lot of people use flexible tanks and all the like.
And we've put a couple of examples on Instagram as well.
Yes, there's a couple of photos of videos on Instagram as well.
And we've rigged one up here down here actually so the viewers can see later on. Another question, tell me a little bit about the bubble size that comes out.
So basically the bubbles that come out of the BubbleGen are dependent on lots of different things, the depth, the size of the pump, etc. But the majority of the bubbles that come out of the BubbleGen are varying size.
Yeah.
And there's lots of complexity around bubble size. It is possible with too small a bubble to over-oxygenate and supersaturate the liquid, but that's not going to happen without some more modern products coming in the market that use high pressures and cost a fortune. But the whole point of the BubbleGen is it's supposed to maintain a good oxygenation level of your nutrient tank over a very long time, weeks or even months. So
bubble size is varied, isn't it? Very a lot, you know.
Yeah, the other big thing to mention about the BubbleGen is normally an air stone would sit at the bottom of the tank and the column of bubbles would basically rise vertically, and as they do they get bigger. But with the BubbleGen it has a horizontal path, and it also pulls in fresh liquid which circulates the tank. So every single second a different part of the tank is being oxygenated as it circulates.
Plus the bubbles stay in the water
they stay longer
because they're going
in an arc.
Rather than going straight up, they go like that, so they're actually in the water longer. Which is, you know.
Happy days. I know a few people have problems with air stones, but I was just curious, how long will this last? Is it degrade?
Yeah, no, we've had one running for
2 years
2 years running in the tank.
Okay.
You get dirty, which is normal, you know.
Yeah, there can be sediment built up in the same way you get with pipes.
But
so it needs to be cleaned every year.
So that leads me on to the next question. Product like this, will it block? I mean, I'm guessing because it's got two large apertures, you're attaching it to a pump, and sending water through it, then it's going to be a lot less susceptible to blockages than...
We haven't had one block yet. We've been testing them for a long time, and like you reiterated, is that because you're always there's a pressure of water going through those two holes, it doesn't allow anything to block there.
In a way, it's self-cleaning. If something was big enough to get through the pump, for example, if you put a handful of cocoa into your liquid, obviously you wouldn't do that anyway. But these sort of things obviously could block the pump, block everything. But it can easily be cleaned out. There's no moving parts inside to break or foul. So as long as it's cleaned, you know, if you've got an issue like that, then it'll last for as long as you want it to last.
Happy days. Obviously it oxygenates. How important is it for people to keep their nutrient solution moving? Because that's obviously something that an air stone doesn't do.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's great is obviously you've got some growers who go into the room and they're going to start adding pH, adding A and B, and then they've got to stand around waiting for the nutrients to mix. Well, with a BubbleGen, it's constantly moving and circulating and oxygenating. You can literally put your nutrients in, and within a few minutes, you're going to be able to take an accurate reading of what your tank levels are. It's constantly always moving and is much more beneficial for that. And it's good to keep your nutrients always level. You don't want your nutrients sitting at the bottom of the tank, for instance, where certain minerals are heavier, but it's always going to keep your nutrients mixing nicely.
It's going to stir the tank for you. It saves you getting your hands in there, which people I know always do. And it's a lot easier, quicker, and more efficient.
Cool. And my last question: does a product like this compare to the traditional methods, air pumps and air stones?
Well, if an air stone, you have to have a noisy air compressor, and plus you buy an air stone and they don't last forever.
Yeah, an air stone is a disposable product.
They'll break, they start to break up. It can cause PFM as well. And generally, the price compares it. I don't think, if this is going to last you 2 or 3 years, the amount of air stones you may buy in 2 or 3 years.
It's also the fact it does more than just that one drop.
It does more than an air stone.
An air stone is an incomplete part of what you require to run a nutrient tank. It only does a small part of what is required to actually, the circulation, proper oxygenation over time, and all the other the possible cooling, running it through chillers, and even feeding. So the benefits far outweigh the simplicity of just using an air stone. And in our opinion, we don't use them anymore.
Plus, noise is a big issue for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So, noise is very quiet, doesn't have a noisy air compressor attached to it because the pump is now submerged in the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has a lot more benefit. You can do a hell of a lot more than what an air tank can do.
And it is completely silent. You actually have to put the hose to your ear to hear
Yeah.
the suction. I mean, the bubble's breaking on the surface, but if you've got a tank, then
Very versatile little product.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your time coming on the show.
No worries.
Really appreciate that.
Thanks
We've
for
got
having
the
us.
product in stock. Any technical support you need, these boys will be more than happy to help. You'll see this in a hydro shop near you in the very near future.
Brilliant.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks
Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem.